In 2003, two major groups finished the mapping of the human genome. A human genome is a complete set of genetic instructions for making a human. When the Human Genome Project was completed, scientists knew the whole sequence of DNA and the location of each gene on each chromosome. Another thing that scientists learned was that there's approximately 3.2 billion base pairs of DNA and roughly 25,000 genes in human DNA. The mapping of the human genome is very helpful for detecting sicknesses and birth defects. Now, through a DNA screening, everyone can now see their DNA, but that raises lots of questions on whether all this is ethical or not. In my opinion, the biggest ethical dilemma is that if you're pregnant, you can view your child's DNA. This can be problematic for some because if it turns out that your child has a birth defect, you can choose to have an abortion. Clearly, this is morally wrong to some people. Another big ethical dilemma for lots of people is that your DNA can be available to the public. This can hurt many people's chances of landing a job because their DNA is available to anyone who wants it. For example, if you're applying for a job and you have a 60% chance of landing cancer later on in life, and they're deciding between you and someone else who doesn't have a chance of landing cancer, they'll probably go with the other person. There are some benefits and concerns about the mapping of the human genome, but first I will talk about the benefits. Now, it will be much easier to stop diseases at an earlier age. If you get a DNA screening at a young age, and the tests say that you will have a good chance of landing some disease later on in life, you can get a medicine at a young age that will prevent you from getting that disease. This can save many lives and will prevent many diseases from happening. Probably the biggest concern for most people is that your genetic information is available to anyone who wants it. If you leave behind a hair or anything else like that, someone can pick it up and send it to a place that will figure out your DNA. This can affect people in lots of ways, as I described on the earlier. Clearly, there are lots of benefits and concerns from the mapping of the human genome. How has DNA screenings affected people's lives? What I said on the last page about how you can have a DNA screening for a young child and then stop them from having a bad disease in the future, that has probably saved a lot of lives by now by just stopping the disease before it happens. It also has affected people's lives negatively, though. And lots of people will have a DNA screening, but then they find out stuff that they don't like. Like, there's a very good chance that they'll have some bad disease in the future. That is not like a good thing. It's pretty scary knowing that you're going to probably get really badly sick. It has also changed people's lives for when parents will get an abortion because they find out that the child will probably have, like, I don't know, some bad disease or something, and that takes away a lot of lives, which is like clearly a moral issue for some, and that has taken away lots of people's lives. Overall, I think the mapping of the human genome is a great thing for science. It clearly has some downsides for some people and might have some ethical dilemmas, but overall I think it's a really good discovery.
Humans have controlled genetic material for a long time, even if it was just farmers combining two successful plants to make more successful plants. Now, genetic engineering is much more advanced, and scientists are solving bigger and bigger problems. Even though scientists are able to cure some diseases, there are questions about how ethical this testing is. Some diseases require changes in the DNA itself, but changing around human DNA can be very dangerous. If a scientist makes one mistake, the person could die. Some people are also concerned about animal rights. In 2008, the first monkey was given the gene for Huntington's disease so scientists could study the symptoms and effects more carefully. Even though there are some dangers to the science, there are a lot of benefits. With recombinant DNA testing, scientists can find proteins that can treat and help cure some diseases like cerebral palsy, Huntington's disease, and cystic fibrosis. With the many successes that have come from DNA testing, there have also been some failures. During some recombinant DNA tests, there have been a tiny mistake in the alignment in DNA and the test subject has died. There has also been some problems finding the right protein to give sick patients to help cure their disease. Giving a person the wrong proteins can lead to further medical issues. Even though there can be devastating consequences, some people still believe it is the right thing to do to help preserve future lives. DNA testing has already affected millions of people, whether they know it or not. DNA testing and manipulating has affected the food supply of America greatly. Genetically modified plants and animals have been created to grow more crops and create more meat in a shorter amount of time. Crops have had certain genes injected into their DNA so that they are resistant to pests. There is not one clear answer as to what to do about DNA testing and modifying. Recombinant DNA can help save many lives, but damage some in the process. I think we should try to find the cures and treatments to diseases, but we should test on bacteria, not apes and rats. Genetically modified food is another issue, and one that needs to be stopped. Even though it can help reduce pests, adding new DNA and chemicals into plants and animals can affect the human body in a whole new way.